My name is Lila, and I keep my life in folders with metal tabs. Red means bills, blue is receipts, green is church, voting, and anything with a seal. When the world forgets me, paper remembers. In February, the doctor cut me open and fixed what he could. I woke up with a zipper of stitches and a clock that ran only on nurse's shoes. My daughter, Tasha, visited with coffee, flowers, and a sentence she wore like perfume. Mama, don't worry about a thing. I got your mail. I'll pay anything important. I nodded because morphine makes everyone sound like a promise. She tucked my keys into her purse so you won't lose them, and left me a kiss on the forehead like she was paying a bill that came due once a year. By the time I came home, the winter wind had already moved on. The porch smelled like old pine, and the mailbox tasted like dust when I pulled it open. Empty. I stood there with my hand inside like I expected a hello. Sometimes silence is heavy because it's hiding. Tasha came that evening with a paper bag of groceries and a voice that didn't want to hear mine. Mama, you need rest. I set up her utilities on autopay. That scary water bill. Handled. Just sign this for the city. Some relief form. She slid a page across my kitchen table. Warm from her hands. I read the title twice and the small print once. Temporary occupant certification, it said. And a line where I should give mail handling permission due to medical hardship. It sounded kind like church and tasted like vinegar. I don't sign vinegar. I told her I'd take it to Pastor Ruth in the morning. Tasha's smile folded at the edges. Mama, why do you make everything so hard? I told her. I make it slow. She left the page anyway. I put it under the salt shaker because that's where paper turns honest. In the morning, I carried it to church and let Pastor Ruth read while the fellowship hall smelled like beans and cornbread. This one's fine, she said, tapping the form. If it stays exactly like this. She pointed to a blank box that had been meant for authorized signer. Blank is my favorite word in a form meant to travel. I came home lighter and made tea. The mint kind that makes a kitchen feel like green socks. I opened the county website to pay my trash fee. There, on the right side of the screen, my address sat under a red banner I had never seen before. Delinquent, it said in a voice that didn't care if I'd been opened or sewn. Below that, a date I didn't like and a word that made my chest hurt worse than stitches. Auction. I said my name out loud because sometimes a room needs reminding who lives there. Then I called the number on the screen. The clerk sounded like someone who has seen every kind of mistake and stopped being surprised. Ma'am, a tax notice was mailed in December and another in January. The account is still unpaid. I was in the hospital, I said. Things miss me, I'm sorry, the clerk said, and I believed her a little. There's a redemption window, but you'll need to file before the auction date. Do you have proof of hardship? Proof is the central language of adults. I printed the discharge summary from my patient portal. The timestamps showing the days I was full of tubes and beeps. I printed the county page with my address in red. I printed the last tax bill I had paid, with its stamp across the corner like a teacher's forgiving signature. Then I called Tasha, baby. I said, did you see a tax notice? She breathed a little too long before she answered. Mama, I paid everything that came. Maybe the letter got lost. These systems are a mess. Systems, I repeated like a stranger's name. Bring me the envelopes from December and January. You need rest, she said. Don't spiral. I'll take care of it. I'll even go to the auction if it comes to that. I can buy it so it stays in the family. There are sentences that look like blankets and feel like rope. Don't go to my auction, I said. Help me pay my bill. She changed subjects the way people do when they're stacking something behind their foot and hoping you don't look down. Let's talk tomorrow, Mama. I'm in traffic. I called my neighbor, Doris, who knows every truck that comes down our street and which mail carriers put the rubber bands back in their pocket. Lila, she said, I saw your Tasha at your mailbox a lot while you were in the hospital. Big white envelope at the window in December, and another one that looked the same in January. She tore them open right there, then stuffed something deep in her tote. My kitchen got quiet enough to hear the refrigerator thinking. I took a pen and wrote 2 lines on a clean sheet in my green folder. Who touched the notice? And when did my name leave the envelope? I took the bus to the county building before lunch. Because if you go after lunch, you are the dessert of the line small, sticky, and nobody wants to deal with you. The lobby was full of chairs that had stopped believing in backs. I asked for the clerk from the phone, and a woman with braids and a sweater the color of rain led me to a window. We can list the mailings, she said. But not who opened them. Can you list who paid nothing? I asked, and she smiled with the corner of her mouth. They often look the same. She stamped my hardship request when I slid over the hospital papers, and the dates with the bruised circles around them. Come back tomorrow, she said. Bring a witness in case anybody argues about your signature. My witness is paper, I told her. But I'll bring a person for the people. I asked Pastor Ruth to come. And she came with a notary from church named Miguel who stamps with both gravity and joy, like a kid who found a purpose. We sat at a small table while the good clerk read our stack. "You're within the window," she said. "You can redeem, but you'll need the full amount certified, and the auction will still be scheduled until these are reflected. Nothing becomes quiet until it's bank quiet. Bank quiet is louder than church quiet." I folded the papers and thanked her with my whole voice. On my way out, I ran into a man in a suit who smelled like lemons in courtrooms. "You Lila?" he asked, reading my name from a copy that had escaped his pile. "I teach the county class on seniors and liens. I'll be at the courthouse on auction day. Bring everything. Not to fight, to be seen." At home, I found a new plant on my porch in the shape of a box. Tasha had left a brand new lock with a keypad and a note, "So you don't have to fiddle with keys while you heal." It was a kind sentence with a wrong shadow. I locked the box in my closet and sat down to write what good people forget when they are rushing. That shortcut steal. That evening, Pastor Ruth brought soup and a prayer that asked for hands to be steady and mouths to be kind. When she left, I made tea. The house got very gently dark, like a book closing itself over a story that didn't want to end in the morning. I wore my go-downtown dress and the comfortable shoes that make me walk like a decision. I went to the bank for a cashier's check. The teller saw the county's name and nodded like someone who has learned what trouble looks like. On a line item. "Good luck, Miss Johnson," she said. "Take copies." I took copies of the copies and put them in Doris's hands across the street, because paper should have a safe house where the wind can't talk to it the day before the auction. Tasha texted me like a teenager with a secret. "Mama, I'll go with you tomorrow. We'll get it done. If anything goes wrong, I can raise my hand and buy the house back cheap." "It's smart. Smart as a needle if you sit on it. Don't raise your hand," I replied. "Hold mine." She didn't answer. The phone is brave when it ignores you. I ironed the dress that the county chairs would mistake for expensive, and put a warm scarf around my throat because I speak better when my neck is not cold. I tucked my green folder under my arm and said my address out loud like a vow. The walls seemed to nod. Courthouse mornings taste like dust and paper glue. The hallway smelled like everybody's fear baked into tile. A man I didn't know called my name and asked me to sit on a bench that had 13 names carved into it by people who needed to leave a mark, where their bills were trying to erase them when they called our parcel number. The auctioneer said it like a joke that nobody wanted to laugh at. "Opening bid," he began, and the numbers fluttered into the air like birds that didn't know windows were real. That was when I saw it. A hand, small and familiar, rose from 3 rows ahead. Not timid, practiced. The nails were clean, and the wrist was wrapped in the watch I had given her when she got her first job. Tasha looked back only once, not at me, but at the clerk's screen. Like a girl watching grades come in, I did not stand. I did not shout. I folded my scarf under my chin and set my feet where God could find them. Then I reached into the green folder and put the cashier's check on my knees like a sleeping cat. The auctioneer said, "Any other bids?" And I said, "Before we go farther, the county needs to see these." My voice was honey poured slow. The lemon man from the county class appeared at my elbow like a useful angel. He asked to pause, and suddenly there was space around us, breathing room. The kind women make when they bring Tupperware to the right funeral. They led me to a small table with the clerk who wore rain and a stamp. That makes things either happen or stop. I slid forward the hardship approval, the stamped redemption form, the cashier's check, the hospital discharge papers, and a letter Miguel had notarized that said my hands had not signed away a single inch of this. "Addressed to anybody with my blood or my last name," the clerk read. The room waited. Paper had its chance to speak. Behind me, Tasha shifted in her chair. I didn't turn. I watched the clerk's eyes move like someone counting travel miles she didn't want to spend. Then she nodded and said, "This parcel is now in redemption processing. Auction on this item is withdrawn pending posting." The room breathed. Someone said, "Praise God," softly enough to be everybody. I heard my daughter's shoes move before I heard her voice. "Mama," she said, "too close and too small." I was trying to save it. I was trying to be smart. I stood up and faced her. She looked beautiful the way people do when they have convinced themselves they are the hero of a story they haven't read all the way through. "Baby," I said, "saving is when you hold. Buying is when you take. And smart is only kind if it leaves people standing." She looked past me toward the clerk. "We're family. Family signs together," I said. "Family opens mail together. Family doesn't raise a hand against a house that knows my name." I thanked the clerk with both hands. The lemon man handed me a sheet with dates, stamps, and 3 numbers to call if the wind tried anything again. Pastor Ruth squeezed my shoulder once, a kind of blessing that travels well. On the courthouse steps, I set my folder on the top stair and let the sunlight lay over it like a warm, clean sheet. My hands were shaking and my voice had gone quiet from use. Tasha stood very close, not touching me. We can talk at home, she said. We can, I said. But not before you bring me December and January, she swallowed. I don't have them. Then bring me where you put them. A crow called from the courthouse roof like he was keeping score. I picked up my folder and walked down the steps slowly, one promise at a time. That night I made tea and breathed like I was counting change. I put the cashier's check receipt under the sugar because that's where I keep sweetness and proof. The house felt tired but sure, like an old friend who knows which boards creak and does it anyway. I wrote the last line of the day on a sticky note and pressed it to the inside of the green folder. Tomorrow I teach my daughter the difference between save and own. That's where part 1 ends, on a courthouse staircase, with my name still my own, and a conversation coming that should have happened years ago. Asterisk, the courthouse air followed us home like dust on a hem. I set my green folder on the kitchen table and left it shut. Some victories need to cool before you cut into them. Tasha stood in the doorway like someone who didn't know whether to come in or run. I pulled 2 mugs, boiled water, and let the tea steep until it looked like it had something to say. Sit, I told her. We'll start with December. She stared at the steam and tried to cry without tears. Mama, it was 1 letter. I panicked. You were in the hospital. I didn't want you upset. You didn't want me informed, I said. Those are cousins, not twins. I was going to fix it. Her voice got small at the end, like a button popping loose. I googled the redemption thing. I thought if it went to auction I could buy it, and then you wouldn't owe anything to the county. Just to me. And I'd set a lower payment. You mean I'd owe you my house? Kindness doesn't charge interest. She lifted the mug with 2 hands like the heat could turn her into someone braver. I had help, she said. A friend said this is how people keep properties in the family. Which friend? She looked down and found a crumb to press into the table. Tyrone, from work. His uncle does real estate. They said we could hold the deed in a trust until you recovered. She said the words like she'd memorized them from a brochure. Bring me the brochure, I said. And the friend, she flinched. Mama, tomorrow at 5, I said. My porch. Bring whoever fed you these ideas, and bring me December and January. She nodded the way people nod when they know they've run out of exits. On her way out she put my old house keys on the counter, heavy, familiar metal. Worn smooth by years of pocket sand, took the keypad box from the closet without asking. I'll return this, she said. It was a bad idea. It was a good idea, pointed at the wrong door. I didn't stop her when she left. I opened the green folder, flattened the courthouse papers, and slid them beneath a sheet of wax paper like a grandmother saving a recipe card. Then I crossed the street to Doris's porch and gave her copies. She didn't hug me. She patted the stack like a small, righteous cat. If a win comes, she said, it'll have to fight me too. Back inside, I phoned Pastor Ruth and told her I needed a chair saved the next morning. Bring whatever you don't want to carry alone, she said. I slept badly again. The body keeps its own minutes. Church smelled like polish and coffee. After service, Pastor set a chair beside hers, and I sank into it like an honest confession. We said nothing for a while, and the silence worked its way through both of us like medicine. Then I told her about Tyrone and the uncle in words like trust and hold and fix. She listened with her whole face. Folks confuse temporary with harmless, she said. A bad bridge will still get you across. Right up until it doesn't. I handed her the county printouts. I need to teach without turning my child into a lesson, I said. You don't need to swing. She said. You brought paper. Let it talk. At 5 on the dot, my porch found us, me in the rocker, Tasha on the top step. A man in a too-tight jacket hovering on the walkway like he wasn't sure which way guilt leaned. This Tyrone? I asked, ma'am. He said, polite enough to rehearse. Sorry for the trouble. We meant well? Well is a deep place, I said. You need rope to measure it. He glanced at Tasha and back at me. My uncle helps people keep properties. We do trusts all day. Even elderly ones. We don't say elderly on this porch, I told him gently. We say owners. Now show me what you have my daughter sign. He hesitated. I didn't blink. At last he pulled a manila folder from his backpack and set it on the rail. Inside, a printout about revocable family trust. A fill-in-the-blank trust agreement with no blanks left, a quitclaim deed template, and a photocopy of my signature that looked like my hand had been writing in the back of a truck. During an earthquake, I didn't raise my voice. I put on my glasses and read. Grantor, Lila M. Johnson. I read. Transfers to trustee, Natasha Johnson, in trust for benefit of. Family. Family is a broadside of a barn. You can paint anything on it. When did I sign this? I asked. Tasha's eyes glossed. We didn't file it, she whispered. We just drafted it. Tyrone said we could hold it in case we needed leverage at the auction. Leverage is for moving pianos, I said. Not mothers. I took out a pen and circled 3 things in neat, slow loops. The notary section left blank. The date that didn't match my hospital stay. And the signature line where my name sat without me in it. This is forgery practice, I said. Thank you for bringing me your homework. Tyrone's face got defensive. Nobody meant harm. The trust keeps it from flippers. Predators always start with nobody meant harm, I said. Then they keep your keys so they can say they were protecting you from losing them. He shifted a step back. We can toss it, he offered. You will? I said. But first you will write on my daughter's phone that you advised her to do this. And that it was wrong. Then you will take a picture of that wrong with your wrong in the frame and send it to me. And then you will leave and never bring your uncle near my porch, he swallowed. Yes, ma'am, we waited, he typed. The text came through, full of admissions that will read real plain later if anyone needs them. He took the photo, his face in the corner like a busted streetlight. I had him sign the back of the printed trust with the words, "This was a draft, not authorized by the owner," and the date. I had Tasha sign beneath it. Then I went inside, made 2 copies and brought one back for him. You keep that, I said. Put it where you put mistakes that keep you from repeating themselves. He tucked it into his backpack like a report card his aunt would see and whispered another man before walking down my steps with careful feet. I watched him go without anger. Sometimes anger is a show. I was busy doing the work. On the porch alone with my child, I let the air settle over us. Baby, I said, tell me the truth I can stand. She folded. The story came out in pieces like a box of tangled cords she'd been hiding in the closet. The December envelope had scared her. She called Tyrone, who said his uncle knew how to pause an auction with a trust and a quick claim. January came, and she told herself she was handling it while never handling it. When I refused to sign her relief form, she panicked and ordered the keypad lock because controlling my door felt cheaper than learning my mail. I didn't rescue her from her own sentences. When she finished, I put my hand on her knee and left it there without squeezing. Tomorrow you come with me to the clerk's office, I said. You tell them you touched my mail. You tell them you tried to fix what wasn't broken and almost broke it. And then you will call Pastor and ask her how to apologize to a mother you tried to own by accident. She nodded, snotty and small. You hate me, she said. I love you, I said. That is why this will cost you something. What? You'll repay the redemption fee in monthly amounts you choose and I approve. You'll bring me every county notice for the next 2 years and watch me open it. You'll sit with me at the kitchen table while I teach you the difference between a deed and a door. She took a breath that shuddered at the end. Okay. And you'll take a Saturday and go with Pastor to the senior center and explain this whole scheme to 5 women thicker than me. You'll answer their questions with the bellyache of truth. Consider that your tithe. She laughed and cried at the same time, which is how people sound when the world stops spinning long enough to find their feet again. Okay, she said again. We went inside and ate sandwiches because grief is hungry. Later I sorted the manila folder into mine, the trust draft under things that didn't happen, the photo text under things that did, and a fresh sheet of paper on top where I wrote in big letters, never confuse a shortcut with a solution. Morning brought us to the county building again. The clerk in the rain sweater recognized us and raised her eyebrows like a prayer. Back so soon? She asked. We brought the rest of the truth, I said and nudged Tasha forward with my elbow. My daughter stood straight without holding on. She told the clerk what she did with the first envelope. How she tore it open on the sidewalk like a thief who thinks a street is a desk. She admitted the plan at the auction. She admitted the trust draft and the wrong signature, and the wrong advice from the wrong uncle who wasn't even anybody's uncle to us. The clerk listened the way old porches do, taking the weight without complaining. Thank you, she said when my girl ran out of rope. I'll make a note in the file. She looked at me. Redemption will post this week. We'll mail a confirmation. We'll fetch it, I said. Mail has had a long one. On the way out, the lemon man spotted us and tipped an invisible hat. Bring your daughter to my class Wednesday, he said. We talk about deeds, liens, and why secrets are heavier than bricks. We'll be there, I answered. Tasha nodded like she was learning to curtsy to the right things. At home we opened my old metal file cabinet and audited my life. Birth certificate, social security, voter registration, deed, tax receipts, insurance policies. I taught her how to make a what-if page if something happens to me. Who to call. Where the papers live. What the house likes to be paid and when. We made a duplicate set in a second binder labeled with her name and mine. I slid the green folder back to its spot and put the duplicate behind the flour canister. Criminals never bake, I said. It's a blind spot. By afternoon, the house felt taller. Even the floorboards sounded relieved. The kettle hissed like an old cat making peace with the new one when Tasha left. She kissed my forehead the way daughters do when they remember they were daughters. Before they were busy, the porch light caught her profile. The one that used to fall asleep in the back seat while I drove home from choir practice. I thought the day was done. Then the doorbell rang. A woman stood on my stoop in a blazer the color of fresh asphalt, holding a clipboard with a smile stapled to it. "Miss Johnson," she said, crisp as a collar. "I'm Char from County Code Compliance. I'm following up on an open case of this address unpermitted demolition. Under a temporary occupant certification, my throat went cold. We have no permits, no demolition, and the only temporary here is me needing a nap," I said. She checked the clipboard. "A complaint was filed last week. Attached to a certification authorizing a representative to manage mail. And notices during your medical hardship. It lists your daughter as a point of contact, Tasha's form. The one I'd salted." I swallowed hard enough to hear it. "We never filed that," I said. "May I see the attachment?" She handed me a photocopy with my name printed just right, and my signature just wrong. The checkboxes for roof work, bathroom removal, and interior wall modifications were ticked like somebody thought they were ordering from a menu. At the bottom, a scrawl that had practiced being me behind Char. A white pickup rolled past slow. A man leaned an elbow on the window and measured my porch with the kind of eyes that bring tape measures without bringing cookies. The truck crawled on like I thought someone would think again later. "Miss Johnson?" Char asked gently. "If no work has begun, we can close this as fraudulent. But if any contractor shows up with this approval, they might rip something out before the paper catches up." "How fast can paper run?" I asked. She smiled, "The real kind. Faster when people help. I'll flag it right now. And if anyone shows up, you call this number and ask for me." She wrote it big on a card and underlined it twice. I copied it onto a sticky note and pressed it inside the green folder next to the new top page, where I wrote, "They will try a different door," when she left. The house went quiet in a new way, like a violin string tightened and waiting. I called Tasha and told her to come back. She came fast. Like a person who knows the thing they've been pushing behind their foot just rolled into the room. "I didn't file that," she said before I showed it. "I swear." "Then your friend did," I said. "Or his uncle. Or someone who learned my name from somebody who loves me and doesn't understand what kind of teeth the world has." We sat together until the kettle forgot to boil and boiled anyway. Then she took out her phone and called Tyrone on speaker. "Did you submit anything to the county about permits?" she asked without hello. He panicked out loud. "No, well, maybe a preliminary. Just to get the ball rolling so the trust could improve the asset," and I held up a hand. "Stop talking to my child," I said, and he stopped. "Send me every document you touched with my name, every email you sent, every form you clicked, and every person you told you were helping me. Do it within the hour. Then delete my number and delete hers and say a prayer that I am too tired to make you meet Miguel." And his stamp. He tried to get angry. I let the silence pick up the phone and hold it higher than he could reach. "Yes, ma'am," he said, small as an apology that hasn't learned to walk. We ended the call and waited. 38 minutes later, my email bloomed with attachments, PDFs, screenshots. A draft email to a contractor with my address on it and the word demo bolded like a dare. I printed everything until the printer wheezed and a stack looked like a young tree trying to become a table. I called Char back. She answered on the first ring. "You weren't kidding," she said when I told her what I had. "Bring it tomorrow. We'll lock this down so hard even termites will need a warrant." After I hung up, Tasha cried for real. The kind that shifts from the throat to the stomach to the spine. I let it have its time. Then I put the last piece of the day where it belonged. I slid the unfiled trust, the fake permit form, and the contractor emails into a new tab in the green folder labeled Second Door. I made us both toast, buttered and plain, and we ate it like communion. When she left for the second time that day, she paused on the steps. "Mama?" she said. Double quotes. "Yes, baby, I'll be here at 8 for the code office and I'll go to the Lemon Man's class Wednesday." "Bring a notebook," I said. "And bring a pen that knows how to tell the truth." The porch light caught her again. And for a second she was 5 years old, asking if monsters are real. "Only the ones we feed," I said, and she nodded like she'd heard me from back when she was new. I locked the door with the key I had kept, turned off the lights in a house that still knew my name, and wrote the last line of the day in the green folder under Second Door. "When they cannot take the deed, they try to take the walls. Tomorrow we teach them what stays." Morning came with a clipboard knock. I put on my good cardigan, the one that makes me stand up straighter, and tucked the green folder under my arm. Tasha showed up on time with a spiral notebook and a pen that clicked like nerves. We drove to the code office with the windows cracked and said nothing that would fall apart if the wind hurt it. Char met us in the lobby with that asphalt-colored blazer and a look that said she'd been waiting on us. "Miss Johnson," she said, "bring your tree." I set the stack on her desk and the papers fanned out like rings in a trunk every year. I'd stood still and built something, she read. She had a way of looking at each page like it was a person trying to tell the truth. "All right," she finally said. "We're closing the unpermitted work complaint as fraudulent, flagging your parcel so any contractor gets an automatic hold, and adding your contact number as the only authorization point. If anyone calls with your name, this system will bite. I like the sound of a quiet bite. What about whoever filed it? I asked. We logged Tyrone's emails, she said, tapping a page. There'll be a warning letter, and if he blinks wrong again, a fine with teeth. His uncle is already on our list of men who call everything a favor. Tasha shifted beside me. I'm sorry, she told Char. The kind of sorry that makes your shoulders lower by a finger. I started a thing I didn't understand. Char nodded. A lot of trouble starts with I'll just. Round here we like I'll read first. She stamped the forms, initialed the copies, and slid a card across the desk. Take this inside the front door. It tells workers to call me before they touch so much as a doorknob. On the way home we stopped at the bank because fear pays better when you hand it to a teller. And watched the receipt print. I asked for a balance certificate and account access list, and a hard copy of every autopay I had ever allowed. The woman behind the glass printed like a choir sing steady in parts and all together. At the porch, we taped Char's card inside the jam with blue painter's tape. Looks like a guardian, Tasha said. It is, I answered. Saint Char of compliance. We ate leftovers at the table that had held more paper in the last week than food, and I taught my daughter a new prayer, Lord, lead me not into shortcuts, and deliver me from blank signature lines. At 6. Doris knocked 3 times away. The street taught us friendly, but not free. Neighborhood meeting, she announced, setting a plate of lemon bars on my counter. We're doing it on your lawn if you don't mind. Because your grass tells the truth even when nobody's mowing. They came as the sky cooled, the women who keep keys in apron pockets. The men who carry tape measures like Bibles. The teenagers who think adulthood is an app. Pastor Ruth brought folding chairs and the little battery speaker we use for parking lot Christmas. The lemon man from the county class arrived in shirt sleeves and wrote D does not equal door on my chalkboard sign from the garden. We told what had happened. Not the part that gossips can carry, but the part that saves other people's roofs. I held up the fake permit form and let the porch light shine through the cheap paper until everyone could see the wrong. Tasha stood beside me, not behind me, and read the text Tyrone had sent admitting what he tried to do. When she finished, she didn't cry. She looked people in the eye and said, I wanted the easy thing that made me the hero in a story that wasn't mine. 10 women hummed a sound that forgives without forgetting. The lemon man talked about the redemption clock, how notices travel slower than need, and how the county website is a friend if you visit it before trouble does. Pastor Ruth held up a Ziploc bag with a thumb drive inside like a sea creature. Skin your deed, she said, and give a copy to people who will outlive you and argue on your behalf. While heaven opens a gate. Before we folded chairs, I opened the green folder and added a new tab with a felt tip pen, class notes. My house looked taller again. Maybe it was just the light. Wednesday. Tasha went to the county workshop without me and came back with a handout underlined. Like a map home. Mama, she said. People clapped when they learned the trust trick isn't saving, it's shadow stealing. She set the handout on my table and tapped the line about notarization. Miguel says a stamp isn't a decoration. Bless him, I said. If he ever runs for anything, I'll bring potato salad to the polls. Thursday morning. A white pickup rolled slow again, measuring my porch the way a crow measures a field. This time I was on the steps with my cardigan and my comm. He stopped, leaned across the passenger seat, and lifted his chin. You Miss Johnson? He asked. I am the deed, I said. He swallowed. We got a work order for a demo. Just checking, I smiled and stood, which is a way of speaking. Work order's a ghost, I said, showing him Char's card taped inside the frame. You call that number and ask for the bite. He left. The tires rolled away like a sentence that decided it didn't want to end in my yard. That afternoon, the bank manager called me on his direct line. Miss Johnson, your redemption posted, he said. County shows paid. The auction file is closed. Put a copy in my box, I said. I'll pick it up and let the paper say hallelujah. I made tea and sat with the cup warming my palms, thinking about all the ways peace gets mispronounced. Some folks call it silence, some call it surrender. Mine sounds like a kettle, a stamp, and a copy made twice. When Tasha came over that evening, she didn't bring solutions. She brought a spiral notebook labeled Mama's House and a jar of quarters for the laundromat, because she said paying back starts with small heavy things. We sat at the table and drew a calendar big enough to hold our promises. First of the month, taxes auto-pay from my account with me watching. 15th, we log onto the county page together and read the boring parts out loud like scripture. Every Friday, the mailbox gets opened on my porch, where envelopes turn honest under the salt shaker after we finished. She pulled something from her purse and set it between us, the old house keys I carried for 27 years, looped on the lanyard with my name embossed by a church fundraiser. I'm hanging these on the hook, she said. Not because you need help, because I need reminding. She hung them by the door, and they clinked like a bell that only rings for the living. I thought maybe that was the end, but Friday had one more errand. We walked back to the courthouse not because paper needed us, but because I needed to tell that building something. On the steps, I opened my green folder and placed my palm flat on the deed like a prayer mat. Thank you for listening. I told the concrete and the offices and the people inside who stand for a living. We'll see you again for good reasons. The lemon man appeared somehow like always and grinned. You staying for the Q&A? He asked. I'm giving it, I said, and Tasha laughed. So we stood for 15 extra minutes while a handful of tired faces asked tired questions, and we answered with the energy you get when your name is your own again. I told them the best trick I know. Put copies across the street. Criminals forget about flour, but they never checked Doris. We went home. I made turkey sandwiches because neither of us could say the word celebrate without feeling like we were tempting fate. We ate slow. After, Tasha washed dishes and I dried. Mama, she said, not turning around. If I bring you that friend to apologize, will you let him? I will let him practice, I said. And then I will let him leave, she nodded. We finished the plates. Night fell the way it should from the edges inward, and I turned off lights in rooms that remembered me. On the way to bed I stopped by the door and put my fingers to the keys, just enough to feel their weight. In the quiet, I heard the house sigh, a sound like a choir sitting down together after the last verse before I slept. I opened the green folder one more time and wrote on a fresh page. Neat as a ledger. What we keep the deed. We keep the habit of reading. We keep each other honest in the daylight. We keep a chair for the neighbor who knows where the copies live. We keep apology as a practice, not a performance. We keep the house by keeping our word. I closed the folder and slid it under the sugar like a secret that isn't one. Then I turned out the lamp and let the dark do what it does best. When it works for you, guard the good paper until morning. And that is the end of the story. A porch with a card that bites. A daughter with a notebook, a house that knows my name. And a woman who learned a long time ago that quiet isn't weak, it's loaded with proof.